All right. What do you got for me? What's question one?
Question one is, what do you think makes you you? Like, what about you makes you different, or what makes you feel just you?
You remember how you were talking about like there's fights that it just changes you. You
Yeah,
know, it changes the way you look at everything. Like it puts you on a different trajectory.
yeah,
I think for me in my own life, it was the divorce from my ex-wife.
okay,
It put me on a different trajectory, and that allowed me to lean into what is like truly me, right? And I think that when you hit that trajectory and things starts going your way and you start to call it flow state or being connected to something that's bigger, it's just something's being fed to you. You're seeing your life from outside of yourself. That's you do that everywhere. It's not just in a sport, right?
yeah,
And for me, I needed some event to make me want to fight for like myself, like who I want to
yeah.
be. Does that make sense? So I think the original question was,
What makes you you?
what makes me me?
Yeah,
Um, well, I'm a lot of things, right? Like I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm a
yeah,
dad,
yeah,
right? So I think what makes me me is I try to be aware of my own baloney as much as I possibly can to not put that on somebody else.
yeah.
Um, I like sneaker. I'm a big sneakerhead. I got a
Nice.
lot of shoes. I got a lot of tattoos. People notice that. Um, but I just try to be. I try to serve others in every fashion of my life, whether it be at work or at home or
Mm,
friends or whatever, because ultimately, that's what we're here for is to help like take care of each other.
yeah. Interesting. What do you think separates you from people that isn't, your tattoo, something inside of you, your shoes? Like, what's something that you feel like is a personal trait that's different than others, or something that you really take pride in?
You're only aware of what you're aware of, right? I know that sounds like something Matthew McConaughey would probably say,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But the point I'm trying to make is I feel like I try to live in as much awareness as I possibly can, and I'm sure I don't always hit the mark, right? But I hope that that is one of the things that separates me from other people is that I just know what it's like to have the feeling of carrying somebody else's stuff.
yeah,
So the least I could do is just take care of my own stuff. So like no one, if they feel like that, it's not necessarily on me. But like I can go to rest my head at night going like, hey, I'm not actively putting anything on one.
okay.
If they're still worried about it, that's really on them.
Mm,
Does that make sense?
okay, I like that. Yeah, that's good. Next one.
All right.
What dreams have you stopped pursuing? What is there something? Obviously now you've lived a pretty good amount of life. Is there something that now maybe you're just not pursuing the same as you used to, or something that meant a lot to you that it kind of fizzled away, where it's not something that you wake up every morning trying to pursue?
I don't mean for this to sound like a cop out, but unlike you, I feel like it would be safe to say you've been pursuing your dreams since you were a little kid.
For sure.
Right? You don't know any different.
Yeah.
You don't know any different besides pursuing your dream. You're like people that don't pursue your dreams. You're like I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Right? I spent a lot of my life not pursuing my dreams. Right? And so it's only recently when this podcast kind of accidentally starts like happening. Right? And then I start to have some sort of online presence and personality. And then I tell myself, I'm like, oh man, like you've always wanted to do stand up. So like what's stopping you from like doing it,
Yeah.
right? It's only recently I started living my dreams and now I feel like it feels fantastic. Now I know what you've been talking about all this time, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But you don't to live out your dreams, you have to be also like you said, you have to be able to take criticism. You have to be able to roll with the days you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to record a podcast every time I record a podcast. And there's some podcasts where it's just like, man, that was like cool. Like, you know what I mean? There's some podcasts where it's like there's a weird vibe. Like
Yeah.
maybe it's not me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
it's
For
maybe
sure.
something I don't even know about.
Right.
Right. But like you have to show up for all those days, like you
Yeah.
said, right?
Yeah.
And what was the original thing? Oh, the dream. Like I just started living my dreams.
Right.
I just
Yeah. Yeah.
started. You know.
Well, that's something I was gonna ask. Is like, as more people, I've been around a lot of people in martial arts, and some people don't even get started with martial arts until their mid 20s, and they still become a champion or still become really good in the sport. So do you feel like, this is something now that you've kind of been waiting for, maybe for like a long time in your life, and now you're like, it fills you with a lot of passion and motivation because you've been kind of searching for it, and now it's kind of like finally there.
Here's what's so weird is if I was really honest with myself, like it was always there,
Yeah.
right? Like when like I mean, so like I'm gonna be 50. By the time this comes out, I'm already 50, but
Okay.
I'm gonna be 50, right? And I remember like for like school projects, I would always like tell the teachers like, "Oh, can I make videos? Like, can my school project
Okay.
be a
Okay.
video?" So it was always like making videos and making shows and making commercials and being like a personality. But I grew up in a town like 5,000 people. I didn't know anybody that did that,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is in 1994, right? What year were you born?
2007.
Yeah, see what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so it's like, there was no internet to tell me that people did things. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? There was no place to just go and learn. And so I put it off, and then you just start living a regular life like a lot of people do. But then to have my life kind of uprooted, not like with me having control,
Yeah.
like because when someone gets a divorce, you can't like make them stay.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, this is my opportunity to do whatever I want. Like it felt like at that moment in my life, it was as low as I got.
Okay.
Right. So it felt like, well, you can only build up from here. So what do you want to build? What do you want this to look like?
What did you feel like you learned from your past marriage and things that obviously you told me now that you have a girlfriend and you have a 5-year-old daughter, and what are you things that you feel like that have really like we talked about earlier, and my stuff was failure can lead to good things, right? And sometimes obviously you didn't want those things to happen. You didn't want to have a divorce, and you probably didn't want those things to happen. It's probably a lot of stress that went through your life, but I'm sure now there's probably a lot of things you've learned from that, and maybe it's kind of gone to a good way when at some point it was probably a low point in your life, and now it's kind of changed things to really skyrocket.
It, like, okay. There's no way for you to explain what it's like to be in a jujitsu fight to someone that's never fought before.
For sure.
You could explain it as many ways you want to, but there's no way to explain it. And like, there's no way to explain to somebody what it's like to be married unless you've been married before.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
And so it's a very hard thing.
Yeah.
And I think that in my marriage, I spent a lot of time blaming someone else for why I was failing,
Okay.
right? Or why we're failing.
Yeah.
Not working on my own stuff, not focusing on me. How can I make this situation different? How can I show up, right? I was too busy and not getting better either, not doing anything to make myself better.
Yeah.
Right? And that's going to fail anything. Like it could be a marriage, it could be a job, it could be another relationship. And so I realized that, man, like how I show up for the people that are most important to me is the most important thing. And so that starts with me.
Mm-hmm.
Starts with me, everything I do and how I'm showing up. I can't control what anybody else is doing. I can only show up and be ready for anything,
Yeah.
That's essentially what you told me too.
Yeah. So what is something that you would say to somebody, I'm not getting married or anything, but just someone that's, learning from a marriage or getting into a marriage, I have a friend that just recently got engaged. So what is something that you would say?
How old is he?
He just turned 25.
Okay.
So yeah, he just turned 25.
How long they been together?
Maybe a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But just what would what would you give advice to something new? Because obviously, like we talked about, you had one before, and now you're on to a different relationship. And what is something that you would say like to that would be beneficial to know? What is something that you wish you knew at that age or going back in time?
Okay. This applies to anything. I would be interested to ask you how this applies to fighting because I've never thought of it. Everything in your life is an interpersonal relationship with you.
Yeah.
Right. It's like my relationship with this mug, my relationship with you. Everything is a relationship, right? And the ones that are most important to you, you should want to take care of them at all costs, unconditionally, right? And loving someone or something unconditionally doesn't mean there's always a fair exchange in the present moment of love or affection or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, when they get married, like say sickness and health, that means that like, hey, if you're able-bodied and your partner needs you. This is your teammate,
Yeah.
right?
You'll be there for
What are you
them.
gonna tell them? Like, like you fumbled the ball, you suck. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you're gonna help them up and go like, hey, we're working on this together,
Right.
right? And you have to keep that mentality, no matter how much, like you're in the worst fight of your life. You're getting into some badass argument. Like you have to remember this is your teammate. How would Tom Brady talk to Rob Gronkowski? Like,
Yeah.
how would we talk to him?
Yeah.
Right? How do you want to talk to your teammate? How much do you need to be right and cause damage in the present that can cause us long-term damage of your whole relationship? Is
Yeah.
it really worth it?
Right.
And so I really learned that a lot of times if I can just be heard, like about my feelings, a lot of times that kind of solves everything, right? So whether it be like a therapist or your partner,
Yeah.
a lot of times that right?
Right.
And when you have a request or a need of your partner or any relationship in your life, it's how you ask it as to how people respond. And you want people to respond in a way that like they don't feel like they're being made to do it. You want them to respond in the way they want to do it.
Yeah.
They want to help you because it helps them,
Yeah.
right? And that's what all your relationships should be like, but most importantly, the ones that are most important to you.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's good. Makes sense to me.
So, okay, what would you say the interpersonal relationship is between two fighters in the middle of a fight? It's intense, but what else is going on?
There's like there's some like in a fight or also just trading as well.
Yeah, just
There-
anytime. Okay, so
Anytime
we
it's
were talking
competition.
about we were talking on a podcast where you said we were talking about auras, like
Yeah, you feel it. Yeah, yeah.
right? So tell me some of the things that you felt at the beginning of a fight when you're standing off
Yeah.
with somebody.
I feel like there's a mix between feeling intense, to tension and confidence. Like there's never been once for me a time where I stood across somebody and it's like, oh my god, I'm gonna lose this fight or I'm so scared of this person. I feel like for me, as I get closer to the fight, like Mike Tyson talked about, it's like he'd be in the back or start to walk out. He'd be very nervous. He was like sometimes even cry before the fight, whatever, to be very nervous and scared. And then as he gets closer to the ring, he gets more confident, more confident, more confident. He gets in the ring, he's very confident. They face off, he's more confident, And that's something I feel like I wouldn't say exactly to his point, but I feel like as I get closer to the ring or as the tension gets closer, I start to become more confident because it's just kind of the way I am. Like the way I visualize things, the way I feel things, or the way that I've trained. It just as we get closer, there's no more ifs. There's no more what if this happens. There's no more if he does this, whatever. It's just all right. We're fighting now. There's nothing else to really think about. It's just we have to go. And I definitely feel like with some people you will fight. There's also a sign of like mutual respect where you can kind of feel it. I'm still trying to knock this guy's head off, but there's also like at the end of the day, there's still like some sort of respect you can feel. I'm not saying every time I fight, but there's definitely times I fight where okay, I can feel. I don't know how to explain it because, like you said, maybe you've never been in a jiu-jitsu match or MMA fight, but there's this feeling of like okay, this you can just kind of feel when someone maybe respects you a little bit too much. And I fought people who you feel like they don't respect you. They're trying to take your head off or they're trying to embarrass you in front of people. And I think that kind of comes down to if someone's nervous. A lot of times I feel like when people are maybe a little bit more nervous or scared, you kind of tend to see this more sign of respect because it's like, oh, if I'm respectful of this person, they're not going to try to hurt me. And I know it's a weird thing to say about fighting, but it's stuff that I felt, from training or, like I'll go to train with somebody and say they may look me up on social media. And social media doesn't really matter, right? Just it's followers that people hit a button. But then like people look me up and then we'll train with them and they'll be like, oh, don't hurt me. I've seen you beat people up on social media. It's like, just because I just met you doesn't mean I'm going to try to knock you out. But they're already putting this message out there like they're scared. They don't want to get hurt, Maybe if they didn't say I was going to beat them up, but I probably wasn't going to do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I can get this. You can get a feeling from people even without some of them saying words or the way they're throwing things out there that okay, maybe this is the way they're feeling. Or a guy comes out there and he's doing all this crazy stuff with his hands. All right, he's a spaz. He's nervous. He's very tense right now. And you can really get a feel for people. For me, I feel like in the first 10 seconds, it's like we touch gloves, we move around. All right, 10 seconds in, I'm already comfortable. I know how this person moves, or I know the way that how they're gonna move, how tense they are. Or this person gonna get tired. I can get a feeling of when they're gonna get tired. It's a crazy thing to feel because in the beginning I definitely didn't feel that, but as I fought more and more and trained more and more, I definitely felt that over the years.
Okay, real quick. Do you think that is something innate inside of you, or do you think that's a product of the 10,000 hours of that you've been doing this?
Definitely the 10,000 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that you just start to sense things that you just can't explain.
Well, because I knew before when I didn't feel that. I didn't feel that. It was just kind of like I wasn't aware of it. Wasn't thinking about it. It was just like I'm sparring this person, friend this person. I'm just gonna go or just do my thing. And then as time went on, I was like, why am I having trouble with people that quote unquote aren't as good as other people, but I'm doing really good against good people? And then it's like, all right, well, some people move different. Some people styles make fights. Different people kind of give you problems, and just kind of had to learn just being able to adapt to everybody and don't rush things. And that applies to anything. Like the fight starts, do I need to go all crazy and try to knock the guy in the first 10 seconds, or do I take my time, kind of ease into things? And that applies to a lot of things in life. Like talk about, I've never been married, and it won't be a long time, but I'm sure easing into things helps as well. And that applies to different things when you're driving, you're walking to somewhere new, you're trying something different. It's like take it slow.
Okay, so I waited until I was 40 years old to get married.
Oh wow.
Never been married before, right? We dated for 6 years
Okay.
and we're married for a year and a half. So when you said like, hey, like take things slow, blah, 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 whatever, I don't think it's a matter of taking things slow.
Yeah.
I think it's a matter
That's crazy.
It's kind of like the conversation with you and your coach. It's like being able to have real conversations,
Yeah.
but be respectful to each
Yeah.
other, right? And I'm sure that you don't view if he's hard on you don't view it as disrespect. You view it as this is just how he delivers the message. Like
Yeah.
this is just what it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think now, when you're younger, you always see things differently too. I mean, I've been trying to see young kids, so I had to change a lot throughout. I grew up through fighting. It's like went through a lot of different changes. How I view a lot of things, how life has changed, how fighting's changed, and that seems like it applies to relationships as well. And it's like it's interesting you talk about you guys dated for 6 years, but only married for a year and a half. It's like why did things change? And I'm guessing the dating part was a lot better than the marriage part.
Well, you would think that, but what if I told you everything was there that said that the marriage would fail,
Okay.
but I just ignored it?
Okay.
And I think a lot of times when something fails, there are signs of why it's failing. It's up to you to decide whether you want to recognize that they're
That's a great
there.
point.
Right? Like even in training, like if you have like
100%.
some move you're not good at or something that really gets you every single time, and you just go like, well, I'm just gonna hope that dude doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Like what kind of
Yeah,
plan
yeah.
is that? Right?
That's actually a great point. That's something I've actually felt through training is maybe there's everyone always get back to fundamentals and basics, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to do the basics because I've been doing it for so long. But then that skill of being great at basics goes away. And a lot of new people, they get really good. They tend to get away from it. It's like, why are we getting away from something that made you so good? Or that's, kind of what makes you a good fighter. And we get away from it for no reason. And we kind of lose that. It's like, we should stick to what we're good at. And there's no reason not to kind of go back to those basics, the things that kind of makes it work. Same thing with maybe communication skills or talking or me and my coach having a good relationship about him being able to criticize me. People call it criticism, but obviously we look at it differently now. Especially for me, it's like he's just trying to be a better fighter, a better person, and these things, And some is about fighting, some is about the way I train, some is about the way, because he wants me to open a gym up one day and how to tell me how to run the gym because he has 3 or 4 different gyms now, and he's able to run them very well and build up hundreds of students at each gym, and I can learn a lot of different things like that. So it's like him being able to tell me what I could be better at. He's just helping me, and I can maybe every once in a while I think we should do this, and then he listens to me just like even though I'm a lot younger than him, he still sees that there's stuff that maybe I can point out and tell him, and he listens to me like, oh yeah, that's actually a great idea. Let's do that. And there's never like a butting heads moment for us, and I think that's me just kind of understanding like. Let me just trust, have trust in the people above me, and if it fails, it fails. But I'm gonna have trust in this person because they've given me no reason not to trust them.
Well, and criticism is just how you want to take it.
Yeah,
You
it's
know
very
what I
true.
mean? It's just do you want to get your feelings hurt about whatever it is? And then if you do get your feelings hurt, you should probably look into that and go, well, why'd that happen?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's probably something deeper there.
Yeah.
Did you have one more question? How many did you ask? All 3?
Yeah, it was all 3.
All right. You got anything you want to ask before we get out of here? About marriage?
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I thought that was pretty good. I really liked your answers. I feel like it even opened up stuff for me. It's like it's cool to see how we have very different lives and we've had a lot of different experiences in life, and it's cool to see that, like, I ask you a question about something that's completely different to fighting, but somehow it comes back to fighting, and somehow fighting came to marriage, and it just all kind of merges together, and we kind of learned something from each and how that applies to everything. I think that's really cool to look at. I think it's really cool to look at things that don't just apply to one thing. It doesn't just apply to marriage. It doesn't just apply to fighting, and how it kind of come together. And you see like how that's something I feel like from fighting is it taught me that some stuff in fighting applies to a lot of other really important things in life, and vice versa.
Well, I think anytime you spend a lot of time doing something and you really put a lot of effort into that time,
Yeah.
it really kind of tells you a lot about life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? So the time I've invested in doing this and what I've created, the time that you have spent doing that,
Yeah.
you've realized like, oh, like all these things kind of apply to life as well. We just tend to think that they're different.
Right.
Right? But like here's the thing. I was thinking this earlier. You were saying like as you get closer to the ring, you be closer to like being
Yeah.
on or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's when you become, Fighter Jackson, right? But like Fighter Jackson isn't the same guy that's playing Madden in his buddy's, room, right? That's not the same. They are the same guy, but they're not it's not the same time,
For
right?
sure.
And there's a time to be Fighter Jackson, and there's a time not,
Yeah.
right? And I think sometimes we get caught up in an idea of what we think we should be instead of going like, I can be more than one thing, and it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
That just means I'm a well-rounded person that's experienced life like everybody else.
Yeah. I mean that. So my nickname when I fight is Action Jackson, just because my fight's entertaining. So I treat it as like when I'm going to the ring or cage, it's Action Jackson fighting, and then right now it's just Jackson. So it's a good way to look at that.
I thought you were gonna tell me it was like another A, but it was just like off work Jackson.
Yeah, yeah, be something different for sure.
My man, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank
Yeah.
you.